I sure hope you had a great break over the holidays. Got time to spend some time with family and a chance to maybe just get re-energized. But it's now time to start a new year and to get back to our leadership training. The purpose of these videos is to give you nuggets that will help you be the best leader that God has called you to be. And so with the new year, I think it's probably the right thing to do is to start with the basics. What is it that makes a Christian leader? A couple of things we need to remember is that Jesus called us, and this is just a reminder to you, Jesus called us to make disciples. That's our highest priority. That's what we need to be about, is to make disciples by leading people to Jesus Christ and then by teaching them to obey. All that I commanded you is what Jesus said. Or we put it another way, leading people to Christ and growing people up in Christ. And what's the best method to do that? Well, the method that Jesus used was to draw a few people together who he could pass that truth on to, who could then take that message and pass it on to others, who would then take and pass it on to others. So the mark of a leader is their ability to be able to pass on to other people the ministry that they're doing. You know, the biggest thing that limits our effectiveness as leaders is that when we have to be the ones to do it all. Every leader should be looking out there, should be scanning the horizon, should be evaluating those who are in their ministry and saying, who could I turn this ministry over to? Or as the ministry grows and we need to have two groups now, who could do this ministry? If you're an elder, are you looking out there and saying, what other potential elders are in the church that I'm seeing doing ministry who love Jesus Christ passionately? Are you even thinking that way? And when you do and you identify that person, then it's how do I teach and train that person? How do I come alongside them? How do I let them be involved in the ministry? If you're a table leader at Kate's Cup, have you identified somebody else at your table and said, boy, if this grows, if we start reaching more of our neighbors, effectively touching the lives of more families, and we now have twice as many ladies at the table, how can this ministry get done? Who could take on some of that? And so are you identifying those people? If you're a home Bible study leader, maybe one of the things that you need to be doing is to be identifying somebody in your group who could take 2 or 3 or 4 couples from your group and start another group so that you could reach more and more people. But you need to identify who those leaders are. Paul put it this way in 2 Timothy chapter 2:2. Paul's writing to this young leader, and he says, and the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others. Do you get that picture? I've taken and invested my life in you. Now what I want you to do is invest your life in others who get the picture, who are then able to invest their lives in others. I saw an interesting statistic several years ago, and it indicated that Jesus took 3 years to get 11 disciples. 3 years to get 11. If those 11 disciples would have taken 3 years to each get 11 more disciples, who then would have invested 3 years to get 11 more disciples, and so on, that Paul, by the time he had become a Christian, had gone to the city of Antioch and developed as a Christian and a leader. By the time it was his opportunity to go out and be a missionary, that Paul would not have been able to find a non-believer on the face of the earth. Did you know that? That's called multiplication. That's what we as leaders are called to do, is to multiply our effectiveness, to multiply the ability to get the good news about Jesus Christ out. And so this year, as you begin, a couple of assignments I have for you. Number one, continue to feed that dog. Remember? Devotions, outreach, and growth. Focus on those. And then number two, identify someone who could do the ministry, who could come alongside you. And then three, after you've identified that person, ask them to join you in doing the ministry. Develop leaders. That's what we're called to do. If God's going to continue to do his work at Northridge, in our home fellowship groups, in our adult Sunday school classes, in our men's ministry, in our women's ministry, in our missions program, in all of these areas, if God's going to continue to do that, new leaders are going to need to be developed. And that's what God is calling us to do. Hey, have a great week. But keep remembering, keep looking for those people that you can invest your life in to develop them as leaders. Pray that God would give you someone who can come alongside and do ministry with you. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.